All right, so let's hop right into it. I want to start with Bitcoin because Bitcoin's actually moving a little bit. So last week we talked about, and I'll zoom out here so you can see this. So last week we talked about this look that Bitcoin gave us, and we had formed out the look, and we were on this Sunday candle. So we started to get the move up, right? And we said two things needed to happen. Number one, we wanted to capture this 117, roughly 117 neckline, and then you wanted to do a really aggressive push to 120, and we got that. We actually got that before the TradFi trading week was up. And then I started thinking, okay, so this is the Friday candle. So then I started thinking, are we about to see a weekend where Bitcoin does the Saturday, Sunday kind of go nowhere, stay stuck, going sideways, and then Sunday night going into Monday, you get a new daily candle at 8 p.m. Eastern time on Sunday. And I thought, oh boy, are we going to see this thing run? We actually saw this wick up really aggressively, basically Saturday night East Coast time, going into Sunday morning, but it was obviously the new Sunday daily candle. So wicks up and then gets pressed back down, and now we get our, this is going to be our Monday candle, even though I'm recording this on Sunday night. So at this point, two things come to mind. Number one, we got the first two parts of the move like I outlined, and then the third thing I should say is, do we just run really hard at the open? Do we end up in a scenario where we just catch the continued bid, the continued volume? I'll show you what I kind of mean. So if you put this out on a weekly, if you notice, let's take this thing back way back. So if you notice, we're literally sitting on a complete volume downtrend, right? The volume's been getting sucked out of this thing. The last major volume push was, what do you know, October, November, December of 24. We had a similar thing happen back here in 23, and then we did have this notable volume push, and that's this right here is the launch of the ETFs. So that's what that comes from. But to clean this thing up real quick, so when you notice this, this is just a perfect setup, right? Because you have all this falling volume, it consolidates. The move ends up being, to zoom right back up into this, so the move ends up being in this falling volume consolidation move, and all you're going to lead yourself to is an impulsive move up if you get the volume follow through. And so if you look at this now on the weekly, you realize, okay, so we got the 1 week with increasing volume, still nothing compared to what we've seen in the past, right? So there's a lot of firepower in this thing. You notice the volume that did come in. Look at the move on this candle, right? So that's a pretty massive move where you started that week at 112, you ended it at 124, 123. So this thing can get pretty wild pretty fast. If you continue to catch the bid and you get this volume surge, if that volume starts pushing up and it matches anywhere close to what we saw back in this range, so if you get any of that, we're going way higher, which is pretty amazing. It also lines up really well with the cyclical nature or history that we've come to expect. So it looks really good at this point. The breakout has to confirm. The reason I have these targets up here, I drew that several months ago, and I've been actively moving it moving it, trying to figure out where we might end up. It might seem a little lofty or crazy to talk about 200. Honestly, this thing could go even higher than those targets, but that's just a visual representation there for me mentally to prepare myself if we start even approaching anywhere near that. Just some different ideas that I have. But the bottom line is, yeah, this thing's looking really good. So to piggyback off of this, I'll actually jump over to the MSTR chart. And you end up in a similar story. So last week I mentioned if Bitcoin moves, then MSTR, I would expect it to absolutely rip. And it looks like Bitcoin's going to move. So you see this weekly candle. It's exactly what you would want to see, right? Completely engulfs this previous week's candle, and in fact went up and tested this old support resistance flip. Couldn't get over it, but picture perfect, right? I mean, almost to the exact level. And again, the exact level doesn't matter so much, but it's kind of interesting when you see something like that play out. So as Bitcoin goes, so will MSTR. And one really interesting thing is if we go to, let's see if we can bring up, I believe Saylor. Let's check this out real quick. So let's see if we can find it. Yeah, here it is. So Saylor ends up posting this for those that don't know. So every Sunday, Michael Saylor will post, the chairman, executive chairman of strategy, will post some sort of message on whether they added Bitcoin during the week. That's what's known as the ATM. And this week we got no new orange dots. The significance of that is that while we had this price action, I'll go to the daily so you can see the price action during the week. So you literally had Bitcoin running really hard. And on a couple of these days, I want to say particularly Tuesday, if I remember correctly, you had a lot of people complaining again about the quote unquote the ATM, right? And saying that this is proof that, and even this candle right here, right? This is proof that Saylor's just waiting to just hammer the ATM, and that's why we're not moving. That's why on a kind of inverted hammer candle like this, that's why we're stuck down here, even though the bulls ended up pushing it up, but we still had this wick. So everybody's complaining, and then you get this message from Saylor saying we didn't even buy this week, right? Super interesting. Like I said, Friday tests this old support resistance flip, and now on Monday morning I would absolutely expect, like I said, if Bitcoin catches the bid, I would absolutely expect MSTR to start going. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in a really amazing spot, because once we see Bitcoin start going, then same story here. This thing can get pretty wild, and there's going to be some key areas, obviously, that we need to be aware of and see if we run up into any issues. The ATM narrative is there. We'll see exactly what the playbook is, see what Saylor's got cooking. To piggyback off of that real quick, I did notice that Robinhood listed the 4 preferred offerings. So there are 4 preferred stocks that Strategy has. It's essentially fixed income products backed by Bitcoin. So they just launched on Robinhood, and as word spreads and as money comes in seeking yield on those products, the flywheel strengthens, right? Because then the company doesn't have to sell into the MSTR common shares. They can sell against some of the preferred offerings and raise cash in that manner and acquire more Bitcoin. So to get back to the common stock, if Bitcoin rips, this thing is going to potentially get up and start testing these levels, these 440 levels, I think once 460 breaks, it's gonna get pretty wild. And just so you kind of have a visual on what this thing looks like, this is not the first time this potentially happens. You had a major one back here, and then another major one back here. Coincides, like I showed you, with these volume swells that we saw the last 2 years in the bull market for Bitcoin. And so, I mean, it's not hard to see the trend here. So if you get follow through, if you start seeing the volume come through, if you start seeing Bitcoin run, this thing is going way higher. And at that point, we'll see when you run up to other blow off tops or profit taking scenarios. But the bottom line is, this thing looks like it's primed, it's ready, and as long as Bitcoin does what it does, this thing's going way higher. So that's that. Let's go to the indexes real quick. Try to get you guys through this video. I don't want to make it too long. Try to do it a little bit shorter this week. So the indexes. So SPY. So this was our Monday last week. When we got that Monday candle right there, I thought, okay, well, we gapped up above the previous week's close, and we were kind of stuck in this. I drew this little tight range here just because I was interested to see what the price action, just as a visual reminder, not so much concerned about the specific price levels, but just a visual reminder of how it is that we're going to perform while we were stuck in this kind of little consolidation point. And so I wanted to see if we would break up. The next day we broke up, closed it, had no problem. I would have preferred to see us get above these all-time highs, these wicks. We didn't do that, and next the Wednesday ended up being a gap down. Bulls push it back up, and we do close the all-time highs, above the all-time highs. That was really nice to see. At that point, I was feeling like, bears fumbled again, right? Because this Monday candle, you could have seen it kind of lean over like this, and maybe break the 660, which has been a little bit sticky. We came up and started visiting it mid-September, so nothing crazy, but a little bit sticky. Bears fumbled that again. The Thursday and Friday candles. So the Thursday candle ended up being a positive day because you did close above that previous close. But there was definitely some selling. We tried to get wicks down to about 666. It's nice to see that we were able to push up above that. I wanted to see at least the day hopefully close above these highs of the previous daily close. We did, so I was happy with that. And then Friday's kind of somewhat of an indecision day. Got pressed down a little bit. We tried to run, we just couldn't. Somewhat of an indecision day. You see pretty consistent volume here. So, a little bit higher volume on Friday than you saw on Thursday, but overall pretty consistent volume. And what that tells me is we're going higher, just because at the end of the day, we're going to need a reason to fall. We're going to need a reason for the bears to be able to take control. And if we're lacking that, then we're just going higher because the market's built to go higher. The debasement of the currency says that nominal values have to go up across indexes, across equities, across things like Bitcoin. So that's the expectation. The market's going to need a reason to go down. Otherwise, it goes up. And so, yeah, this is, there's just nothing bearish about this trend. If we go back to tariff mania, which seems like forever ago, it's insane. Yeah, there's just nothing bearish about this, right? It's just a series of consistently higher highs and higher lows, which is what you love to see. So I'm not saying that we can't fall from this, but I am saying that the trend is your friend, essentially. And so I expect this to continue. On the Qs, it's going to be somewhat similar, although it did have a little bit of a more bearish setup on Friday, where we sold off and through the wick of the Wednesday candle. We did end up finishing right just about flush with that Wednesday close. So I like that. I like that the buyers were able to get this thing pushed up, and we didn't wick down into this kind of midpoint of that Wednesday candle. 600 was kind of my level for that, where I was just looking at and saying, like, it's a psychological level. It's this kind of midpoint cutting through a few of these key candles. So 600 is an interesting point for me. I think similar story at this point. I mean, if we have anything resembling just kind of solid news, nothing really is on tap this week. I don't think anything changes in terms of the easing cycle. I don't think we're getting any information necessarily that's going to come out of the government shutdown, but that's pretty much a nothing burger at this point. And if anything, it's just going to set us up for a little pop when the reopening is eventually announced. So if you already avoided the sort of sell the news event, then at this point you're just going to be able to get ride a little wave when you get whatever positive news comes off of that. So that's that on the indexes. We'll go on a couple other ones that I think are interesting, and then we'll call it a night. So Tesla is incredibly interesting. Last week we talked about the move up, so we can focus on kind of what we've done since. So last Monday's candle, you have a gap up, you kind of go nowhere, a little bit of an indecision. The following day, a similar story to something you saw on a couple of the those candles on the indexes, where you get a little bit of a bear attack. Buyers push it up. Same thing, buyers pushed it up Wednesday, and then the big Thursday sell off happened. So this was the day where you had a lot of people, I guess on Twitter or wherever, being like, oh yeah, that's it, it's over, Tesla's crashing right back to where it came from. In fact, it's going even lower, blah blah blah. At the end of the day, it's never a good look, right? You get like this really strong gap up. It was the deliveries day, so they announced good deliveries. Everybody knew that it was going to be good deliveries, with the front running of the EV credits, tax credits being removed, and so, or sunsetted. So everybody knew that the numbers were going to be good. It was all kind of baked in, and you just had this really harsh sell-off, and there was, nothing to it. You're not getting a wick down and then getting it bought back up. It was just a trip straight to hell. So that sucked. The following day, so this was on Friday. So on Friday, you had one of these kind of peak down and then get bought back up. And that's generally, even though it ends up being a red day, that's generally something you like to see. This thing tests this flip, right? Support resistance flip, peaks down, essentially scares a bunch of people out of their positions, whether you're stop lossed out, whether you're just doing it manually, whatever the case is. The bottom line is you buy into the bearish narrative. A lot of people start potentially loading up on puts, getting over leveraged, and then what do you know, snap back, buyers step up and finish the day up here at 430. So when I saw this down in this range, I didn't get it perfectly, I didn't time it perfectly, but I did go into some cash secured puts at my strikes, I believe at 430. That's going to be expiring on the 10th, which is this coming Friday. And the reason I did is because I realized that there was a bit of a struggle going on here, and on the lower time frames you could see, we'll go down to even on the 15, you can probably see it. So so even on the 15, it's clear as day, right? You're watching this, essentially this is the beginning of the day over here. So you're watching this come down, try to push it back up a little bit, volume starts falling out, and then volume starts coming back, and you're going, oh crap, here we go, now's the real test. Once I started seeing this fight back up, it was clear to me that we're gonna be okay here. And so we were probably, I probably took it pretty early. So, somewhere in this like 418, 419 range, I set that up. So we'll see how this week goes. I think those CSPs will probably, to some extent, I would love to get assigned, but I think they'll probably end up, just ending up worthless, and I'll collect the premium, which is good. It's income producing. It's great. It's not bad. At the end of the day, I think the fact that Tesla fights off 420 is meme number, the whole thing. So I think that's huge. I think if you back out of this thing, similar story. Like when you start seeing, so what I said on Bitcoin, the volume it's always these major pushes that lead to then, volume drying out, these major pushes, right? Up moves or down moves. And then it leads to a little bit of a cooling off on volume. And you're able to kind of fight back against whether you're falling or rising. At the end of the day, when you start seeing the volume get sucked out, you start seeing the move, whether it's a consolidation move or maybe it's an impulsive move, you kind of start seeing the other side of whatever that move is, right? And so you see that here where, all this was consolidation. Like basically, I think we did this last week, where like all this was consolidation. And you see where you've got volume basically just falling the whole time. And so that's a perfect consolidation move, setting you up for some type of volume to flow in that gets you to break that consolidation or that resistance that ends up forming, where Tesla had literally, multiple times attacked it there, kind of there, right? And then boom, it gets it there. So all that to say that we're seeing after this volume, a little bit of volume kind of comes out of this thing. And at this point, we're thinking the bear attack comes, right? You get a lot of volume on that bear attack. So you start seeing that. You see the buyers be able to defend this, like I said. And so now we start looking for what's next. Now, related to that, we'll go, let me see here if we can pull this up. I know earlier, yeah. So, and I think probably link doesn't work. So they posted this earlier. At the time it was working. It seems like it's not right now. So this, all it was is just this turbine looking fan, whatever this is, right? It starts spinning, and it's like it was like a 7 or 8 second clip, something like that. And so there's obviously something being teased, and then you got this with what I think everybody would understand as the more affordable model, the new affordable model, whether that's a $35,000, $35,000 price target, I don't know, but they put this up. So once they posted that up, that there's some stuff coming up, and they're excited for it. They're teasing some stuff. There's word that I guess on Twitter, there's word that maybe that turbine post is related to some sort of announcement with Archer, because I think Archer has a video that, let's go back, we can probably find it, a video that I think shows, let's see, what is Archer Aviation. So I think they had, I'm not sure if they posted it up here or not. Yeah, I think it's this one. Yeah, it is. So let's check this out. So right in here, you're going to see Optimus in about a couple seconds here. So you'll see Optimus and you'll see a robotaxi. There we go. So Tesla and Archer potentially teaming up. Yeah, if that's the case, then this thing's potentially going to catch some sort of a pop, and so maybe you see a little bit of volume come support this move, and we get a little bit of a push up. Obviously, you have work to do. And this is, there's no doubt about it. You don't like seeing this kind of price action, or these kind of candles. The price action itself is okay, because if nothing else, it's just consolidating, kind of getting into a little bit of a megaphone kind of deal there. And then at the end of this, if you end up with some sort of either bullish announcement, bullish options activity, all of that just signals we're going higher, right? And I think it's important to understand that this day right here was the big Elon buying like $1 billion worth of open market stock, right? So he bought shares all along these price ranges. If nothing else, whenever insiders, or in this case, the head of a company, is buying shares at market prices, that essentially you're setting a floor, right? It's not that it can't go below this, but you essentially have Elon telling you this is the floor and it's go time. With that said, let's pull up Archer. Yeah, wow. All right. So, yeah, this is very interesting look. Similar story. You see, it's like super evident here. The swells, the volume swells. On names like this, you can play this really easily, I guess you would say. So you just see this pop, right, with all this volume, and then you say, okay, the other side of this is it's just gonna be volume getting sucked out of this thing, which you get, right? So you get all of this, and then you start seeing the volume kind of pick up again, and you get one of these deals where you go, all right, so you could even do it here. It's fine. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you end up with one of these setups where you go, oh boy, like this is Rocket Lab just did this, ASTS just did this too. So yeah, I wasn't even paying attention to Archer on Friday, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that Tesla news is made official on I think Tuesday is when Tesla said they were going to announce something. They didn't say it. They posted it on that turbine looking teaser. So yeah, that's what that setup looks like. At the end of this move, yeah, I mean, this thing will be off and running, because if this thing puts in a couple more days like this, well, I mean, you might have, yeah, if you get past these levels, then it's off to the races pretty much, and then you just figure, what's the volume going to look like if you get follow through? If you don't get follow through, if you don't have bullish announcements, if you don't have some sort of catalyst, then maybe we get a little delay. But this thing looks like it's setting up really well. To show you real quick with that, yeah, it's pretty much the same look, right? So that's something like what you would expect. So this actually, by the way, Rocket Lab's set up to continue this move. Absolutely. I mean, this is just price discovery, just now breaking out. That goes back to July 17th when you first kissed this level. And this past Friday, it just broke out. So that looks amazing. Doesn't mean it has to rip immediately, but I would expect it to find continuation, particularly if you can get volumes like this, right? If you could find another 2, 3, 4 days, I mean, that thing can move. If not, then you start wondering at what point, whether it's here or somewhere, at what point can you get some sort of maybe something that goes into a little bit of a retrace kind of. You see that kind of look a lot, right? Or maybe you come up here and you kind of get stuck and you can't kind of make it out and you're kind of stuck, and then boom, sorry about that, and then it goes. Doesn't have to go to 70, doesn't have to go, but the point, you get the idea, right? So it's a good look. Archer could probably do something really similar. I think ASTS had done something somewhat similar. I didn't draw it out exactly the same way, but it's essentially, once you see these patterns once, you see them everywhere. A few times you get whether shares, calls, whatever your plays are. Once you see it a few times, you memorize this stuff. What else is really interesting? Let's check out NVIDIA real quick, and then we'll maybe call it a night. So NVIDIA is not slowing down. NVIDIA is not slowing down, and we're talking about, what does this remind you of, right? Like just a lot of consolidation. Post tariff mania, obviously we came up from tariff mania, but just a ton of consolidation. This is one of those moves where, so okay, this is good. This is what we were just talking about. So move up, tried to keep going. Okay, so it's getting hit down a little bit. So the question now becomes, can we find ourselves in some sort of wedge? Could be some sort of bull flag, right? So if we do that, could easily build a kind of like a little pennant thing. The point is, can we get some sort of consolidating price action, since we do have these 2 days, there's Thursday and Friday, yeah, which makes sense because of the indexes, right? And NVIDIA is so heavily weighted there, so yeah, if the indexes, and if NVIDIA, if Tesla, Meta, some of these other big names, yeah, if these things gap up in the pre-market on Monday, and then NVIDIA is going to keep going. If not, then I would say you probably have a little opportunity before it kind of does one of these kind of up and out J kind of patterns. So that'd be good. That'd be something to look for. Amazon, I think, still kind of stuck. Yeah. So a lot of people are just stacking here. If you're an Amazon, not believer at this point, who isn't a believer? But if you're just into trying to build a bigger and bigger and bigger position on Amazon, this looks really good. It's just consolidation. That's all it is. Fighting this level and having protected it off of this kind of bearish activity. So just fighting this level is nice. I'm holding 220, hold 220. It's at 219.51. Just hold 220, roughly 219, 218. Hold these levels and wait for that next push. That looks good. I think we'll call it a night. There's some other cool things to look at, but let's not make it too long. And yeah, we'll call it a night. So see if we can do maybe like a couple more videos this week, and maybe a midweek or end of week. See kind of how that comes together. Other than that, let me know what tickers you guys want to check out. I'll be sure to highlight those. And yeah, hopefully just make your plan, prepare. If we go up, if we go down, if we go sideways, just know if this, then what. Know what those answers are for you and your portfolio. And yeah, let's have a good week. All right, guys.